Hi, everyone. My name is Camille Bishop. I work with the University of the Nations, part of our wonderful YWAM family. I've been asked to speak on the topic of ongoing training for your staff. I love this topic. You could also call it happy staff or growing staff or learning staff. When I think about staff training, I think about the first learning community in Scripture. And that, of course, that was the Garden of Eden. God placed Adam and Eve in this amazing environment filled with so many things to discover. They were surrounded by all kinds of animals and birds and fish and water and soil and plants. And God told them to take care of it, to steward it, to work it, to multiply it. They had so much to learn, so much to discover. How were they going to do it? Well, of course, they were going to learn from God himself. That's the vertical relationship between God and humans. They would learn from one another, the horizontal relationship between Adam and Eve. They would learn from the created order all around them, the world that they were living in through observation and experimentation and asking questions. And they would learn even intrapersonally where they were. So Adam had a relationship with himself. 4 perfect relationships in this learning community, and so many things to learn. Even when Adam and Eve disobeyed the Lord and were banished from the garden, they didn't lose the fact that they were made in the image of God. And being made in the image of God is the very foundation for ongoing staff training and development. You know, in reality, we are hardwired to learn. God has made us that way. He gave us an amazing mind and a brain. And when little children are first born, they have so many neural connections. And they, of course, continue as we're growing, as we're getting older. But we have the capacity to learn. Now, many times people don't think like this because maybe they didn't do well in school or they've had hurtful situations. But I want to encourage us all to remember that we're made to learn. God created us as curious people. We are made to discover, ask questions, observe, be innovative, creative, be able to solve problems and take our place in culture and society. And so all of these attributes, they are ours because we're made in the image of God. Many times people struggle thinking that they're creative because they don't think they are, but God's a creator and he made us in his image, so we are creative and we have so much to learn. So the question we need to ask ourselves is, what kind of a learning community do we have at our YWAM operating location? Are we encouraging our staff to do ongoing learning and development in their lives? You know, we have lots of different types of staff. We have short-term staff that are maybe with us 6 months. They come and staff a school and an outreach and they move on. We have staff that might join a particular location. They really like the fellowship. They like the environment. They stay for 1 or 2 years. But we have many staff that have been with us for a long time. I'm constantly amazed at the number of staff that I meet who they came to us young and they've been in the mission for 15 or 20 years and they're hungry to learn. Many of them have said to me, you know, I did my DTS and I did the outreach and I joined staff, but I've not done anything else in the last 10 or 15 years to further my learning. And I want to do something. Our staff often feel bored, are wondering, how can I continue to equip myself? How can I continue to clarify further my calling in God and equip myself for that calling, and growing in lots of different ways. You know, we're multifaceted people. We need to be able to grow intellectually, socially, emotionally, spiritually. I mean, our bodies grow naturally, but all of these other facets, they don't happen automatically. It happens because we are developing and we're putting ourselves in situations where we can learn and we can apply what we're learning to our own growth and development. So there are so many ways in today's world within our mission and outside of our mission for our staff to receive ongoing training. It's not only when they attend a conference or when we organize something special for the base. That's a great opportunity, but there's lots of other ways. For example, at our learning and on our operating locations, we can encourage our staff. Why don't you start a book study? Why don't you start a discussion group? It could be around podcasts. It could be around anything. It could be around a topic that is current in culture and society, and people would like to wrestle with it, and they'd like to read about it. They'd like to talk about it. There can be so many ways that our communities can be places where people are learning and continuing to develop. It's not just an 8 to 5 job. It is an ecclesial learning community. That's what a mission organization or a missions movement is, where we have to constantly be learning, because to be relevant, we need to know what's going on around us. We need to read. We need to think. We need to discuss. When I first joined YWAM, one of my leaders said to me, "Camille, leaders are readers." And I thought, wow, that's really true. I mean, I've always been a reader. I was a reader since I was a little girl, and I enjoyed it. But many people don't. But my leader said to me, leaders are readers. And he actually challenged himself to read regularly, to know what's going on. So there are so many different ways. It could be you're listening to an audiobook, or you're listening to a podcast, or you're involved in a webinar, but anything that kind of, shakes up the brain, gets us thinking and discussing with one another. So very precious. Also, within our schools that we're offering, there are people that are coming through our bases, visiting teachers, and there are resources that are coming to us. Those are precious ways for our own staff, school staff, as well as other staff, to be able to interact with guest speakers, be able to perhaps sit in on something, sit in one day on the class, sit in for a week, but be able to use the resources that are coming to our bases for ongoing staff training. Also, we have in extension studies now within the University of the Nations. These are short courses about all kinds of topics that you can take. You can even do a full SBS online right now. And so our staff need to be aware of the many opportunities there are out there for ongoing staff development and training, and also to make space for people to do new things. For example, if we have staff that are working more in administrative work, or they're working behind the scenes in hospitality or in the kitchen or maintenance or whatever, what if we offered them the opportunity to occasionally do an outreach, or encourage them to take another school or to take a seminar? And maybe it's not at our base, but maybe it's at another base where there's an opportunity. So just to be able to have an environment that's an open environment where people can learn and they feel like there are options for them. Another thing to think about in this whole area of ongoing staff training is what it really means to be a missions worker, and what kind of training does that require? I read an article a number of years ago called Reflective Practitioners. And the article was about people that are just as comfortable working on the field with a missions project as they are doing academic study. And these kinds of people are actually able to go in and out of those two worlds, and they're very valuable because they can take what's happening on the field, which is so very important and relevant to real life. Then they can go back and they can reflect on it. They can do further study. They can talk with other people about it, and they can kind of bridge those two worlds. That's rare. Many people are either academics or they're field people, but within our mission, we're called to be both. We're called to be reflective practitioners, very attached to the field and real life, but also ongoing learners. What are the theories out there? What are other people saying about this? How can we learn together? And how can we take that learning and make it stronger, our own lives stronger in what we have to offer? This happened in my own personal life within the mission. 2 or 3 years after I joined YWAM, the Iron Curtain fell, and I started working in Eastern Europe, in Albania, with their education system. I didn't have a clue what I was really doing, but I was learning so much and I realized I wanted to do further study. So I did. I actually went and did my doctoral program with other missionaries that were looking at Christian education and nation building and discipling, which is exactly what we're doing within YWAM. And I didn't leave the mission. I used my degree to make my skills stronger, to strengthen my teaching within the mission, to look differently at nations and educational systems. So it was a win-win, and we need more of it. So I just want to encourage us to ask ourselves a few questions. What kind of learning environment do we have at our location? In what ways are we encouraging our staff to continue their ongoing development and creating opportunities for it, as well as resourcing them to other places and ways that they could get that kind of input and training? Thank you for your attention. I hope this has been encouraging to you. Just remember, God has made us to be learners. So God bless you in your own lives and your ongoing training and your own staff training initiatives at your location. Take care now. God bless.